Howdy y'all, and welcome to this special winter outlook. Before we get into what we could expect for this upcoming winter, please keep in mind that anything over a week out is virtually impossible to forecast, so please take this forecast with a grain of salt. Now, the three main factors that shape our winter weather is basically the ENSO, NAO, and QBO. There are many other factors, but we're going to just cover these three main ones because these are the three main ones that play an active role in our winter weather season. Now, the first one here is the ENSO pattern. Y'all know this one. Basically, El Nino, La Nina, or ENSO neutral. Think of it as a seesaw in the Pacific Ocean near the equator. When it's in a La Nina phase, like this year for example, the waters get cooler than normal, which often pushes storm tracks northward, which means that wintering conditions could be possible in the northern part of the country, while the south stays drier and warmer. Now the opposite occurs during the El Nino phase, when the waters are warmer, and flips these effects. Now you can see on the bottom in the center here, you can see we are going to be in a La Nina and heading towards a weak La Nina as we head into the winter months, and it's looking like we could be heading into a little bit of a weak El Nino and into a strong El Nino as we head into spring and into summer. Now here is a little simpler explanation of it. Basically you have warm phase and cold phase, and here's what happens during a La Nina winter. You have a wet north and a dry south. Now, it takes more than the ENSO to influence our weather. These, as you can see down here, that these factors don't act alone. They have to team up in order to shape our weather. Now, next is the NAO. A little bit more confusing, but basically it's the North Atlantic Oscillation. It's like a pressure tug of war between Iceland and the Azores. If you don't know what the Azores are, it's the island next to Europe and the Atlantic. A positive NAO, which we're currently in, means stronger winds keep cold air locked up north, leading to milder, wetter winters in the U.S. A negative NAO weakens those winds, which will be in this upcoming winter, as you can see on the bottom right, allowing cold air to spill south and bring more snow and chill to the East Coast. And here's an infographic to explain this even more simply. Basically, all you gotta think about, if we're in a negative NAO, you hear that word, basically just expect cold and snowy conditions out east. If you have a positive NAO, basically expect a warmer eastern part of the country. That's all you gotta think about. Now QBO, this one's a little bit more confusing. I remember when I first saw this word, it really was a brain teaser, but it's basically high up in the stratosphere. It's basically stratospheric winds over the equator. Now, how does this play a role in our winter weather? Well, it flips directions every couple of years, easterly, blowing west to east, or even westerly. This winter's easterly phase can disrupt the polar vortex. You may have heard of it. It's that spinning cold air mass over the North Pole, making it weaker and more likely to send sudden cold blasts into the U.S., especially the Midwest and East, which we could be coming in on that this year. Now, I know most of y'all know the polar vortex, but here is what the polar vortex is. It's basically a large area of cold air high up in the atmosphere, normally spins above the North Pole, obviously. A chunk of this polar vortex sometimes slides down towards the U.S. when it's weakened down and helps funnel bitterly cold Arctic air over the central and eastern U.S. And here is how the QBO plays a role in it. See, we have the stratospheric layer and we also have the tropospheric layer. Usually the QBO brings that warmer air up here in the stratosphere up to the Arctic and weakens down that polar vortex and makes it wavy. And usually when it makes it wavy, it brings that cold air down south, and we feel that polar vortex down here in the lower 48. Now, when the QBO is in a westerly phase, usually it locks that cold air up north because usually the winds don't come up here and keeps that cold air sustained and we don't feel the polar vortex. And we could be feeling this upcoming winter, which we'll get into here in a little bit. Now, other than the ENSO, NAO, and QBO, you can see down here that solar activity could shape the season as well. And that is not clickbait, by the way. I know last year we were in a solar maximum, which means that we had more sunspots, which means more solar flares and more auroras. Now this year, you can see we're going to be in a solar minimum, which means less sunspots, which could mean less auroras and solar flares. Now, how does this play a role in our winter weather? Well, usually means that we can sound the polar vortex, means more colder outbreaks, more sudden stratospheric warming events, which equals sudden warmings, which splits the vortex in January, which means Arctic blasts are going to be felt here in the eastern part of the country. So a combination of a weak La Nina, a negative NAO, and an easterly QBO on top of a solar minimum phase means that we could be dealing with a very, very frigid winter. And here's an even simpler explanation. If you want to pause the video and read this, you can, but here's an even simpler explanation of how these factors play a role in our upcoming winter season. Now, there are also other factors. I'm not going to go into too much detail with these. I don't want to bore y'all, but basically here is how all of this plays a role in our winter weather. Basically, a wet north and a dry south is all you got to think about for this upcoming winter. Let's go ahead and get into the weather models, and then I'll give you my prediction and even a bold prediction of what we could expect for this upcoming winter season. Now, we're going to take a look at 3 different seasonal models. We have the CanSIPS model first. We'll take a look at the Euro seasonal, and we'll also take a look at the CSV2 model as well. Now, first, taking a look at the CanSIPS seasonal, we can see that the temperature outlook, at least for what they're predicting anyway, they're saying that for, on average, from December through February, we're going to be colder than average here amongst the northern half of the country, and really the southwest down into the southeast is going to be remaining above average. Now, what about the precipitation? Well, we can see that much of the southern half of the country and a little bit of the northwest is going to be below average. The northwest is a surprise. Usually we come in on wet winters up here in the northwest during weak La Niñas, but this is a weather model. Keep this in mind. And it's looking like the northern half of the country here, from the northeast all the way up into Montana, can be well above average. And this also includes the Great Lakes. You can see the dark green here is well above average. So we could be coming in on some lake effect snowfall if we stick with the CanSIPS model. Now, what about the Euro seasonal? What are they saying? Well, they're saying just the opposite. They are saying that the northwest is going to be above average. Great Lakes is still going to be above average. The white is sort of in between, so the plains could be seeing either below or above average, just depends. Northeast is a mixed bag. Southeast going to be a below average, which is typical for a weak La Niña pattern, and as well as the southern half of the country. Now, what about the temperatures when it comes to the Euro seasonal? It's looking like, I don't believe this one, but it's looking like much of the country is going to be heading into an above average temperature season when it comes to this winter anyway, which is, I don't believe this one, but that's what they're saying anyway. Now, the last one here, the CSV2 seasonal, which we'll have to go to the control model because they don't show December, January, and February on the seasonal model for some reason. Now, looking at the CSV2 model, it's showing a similar picture to what the Euro seasonal was, with above normal temperatures for much of the country except for the far northwest and a little bit of the southeast. But I really don't agree with this one either. As far as precipitation goes, you can see a stark contrast to both the Euro seasonal and the CanSIPS, as the western part of the country is sort of a mixed bag, but I'm thinking below average out here. The northeast and the south central part of the country is going to be above average. The Midwest and northern plains and even the Midwest is going to be below average. So I didn't realize it, but Weather Bell has their own winter prediction of what we could expect for this upcoming winter. We can see as we scroll down here, as far as snowfall goes, they're saying majority of the snowfall is going to be occurring in the Great Lakes region up in here to the northeast and the northern plains. As far as temperatures go, could be as cold as far south as Oklahoma, but above average here in the southeast and southwest. Pretty typical for a weak La Niña pattern. And we can see the 500 millibar height anomalies. We can see that sudden stratospheric warming event potentially occurring this year. We'll have that warming up here in the North Pole, which weakens down the polar vortex, weakens it down, and sends that cold air our way. And you can see the models we were just going over. Basically, cold and wet north and a dry and warm south is what we could expect, which I'm in agreement with. Now, the Euro seasonal and the CSV2 were in disagreement with that, as they were showing a little bit above average temperatures here amongst much of the country, really, while the CanSIPS model was showing well below average precipitation out west, which can happen. It did happen back, I think, in 2017 and 18, but we'll take a look at what this year could resemble here in a little bit. Now, as far as what the experts at the Climate Prediction Center are saying, we can see that's really in alignment with what a weak La Niña season is going to be looking like, which is a cold north and a warm south. Now, equal chances means either above or below average, just depends, but I'm thinking that the Ohio Valley is going to be colder than normal, while the central part of the country is going to be heading into an above normal temperature pattern. But we'll get into my prediction here in a little bit. As far as the precipitation goes, we can see that from the northwest all the way down into the Ohio Valley, down into the mid-south, we're dealing with above average precipitation, and I'm thinking that we're going to be coming in on a record amount of lake effect snow here in the Ohio Valley. That's my bold prediction. I have another bold prediction, which we'll get into here in a little bit. See the southern half of the country in alignment with a weak La Niña, as we're going to be coming in on a warmer than normal and a drier than normal winter season, especially down here from South Carolina down into the panhandle of Florida. So as we compare the models, we can see that basically it's going to be a colder east with sudden stratospheric warming events occurring, and a wetter north and a warmer south. So basically a split season with caveats pretty much. And here is an example of a sudden stratospheric warming event if you don't know what that means. Basically, we have that QBO weakening down the polar vortex, and then that polar vortex stretches its way down here into the lower 48. Basically, that's all that means. Basically means it could have a colder east here in January. So here is my prediction of what we could expect for this upcoming winter. Basically a wetter and cooler north, warmer and drier south. Pretty much keeping it basic, that's what we could expect with a polar vortex stretching its way down here into the eastern part of the country as we head into the meat and potatoes of wintertime. Now before we get into what this year could resemble, here is my thought process on selecting the previous year. Now keep in mind that past years don't define what future years will be like. The future is unnovel, so please keep that in mind. Now I selected 2017 and 18 as we did have a weak La Nina and easterly QBO and really similar conditions to this year. And we can see back in 2017 and 18 we had a lot of nor'easters. It was colder north and east and warmer west and south. Now this year we're going to be having pretty much the similar stories. We're going to have a colder north and east with the south being warmer and drier. So we could have a similar winter to 2017 and 18. It's not going to be exactly the same, but could be very, very similar as we had similar conditions during that year. Now what about snowfall, since we are going to be dealing with a soggy and cold northern half of the country? Well, during La Nina events we typically have above normal snowfall here in the northwest and Great Lakes region, with near normal snowfall in the northeast with big storms, which means nor'easters occurring potentially, and below normal snowfall here in the southern half of the country, which means we could also have ice storms here in Oklahoma and Kansas. Please take that with a grain of salt though, can will change, but could have more ice storms here in the south central part of the country. Although it says we are going to be dealing with below average snowfall, doesn't mean we can't come in on ice storms. And here is the typical average snowfall patterns for all La Nina years. We can see northwest, northeast, Great Lakes region dealing with a lot of snowfall. Here is average snowfall patterns for weak La Nina, which we're coming into this year. You can see it more prominent here in the northern plains, northeast and northwest. Now during a strong La Nina, we're not going to be coming in on that. It means that we are not going to be dealing with much snowfall at all here in the central and really much of the eastern part of the country. The northwest comes in on a lot of snowfall during strong La Ninas, but we're not going to be coming in on this year, so keep that in mind. Now, my bold prediction for this upcoming winter, we're going to be dealing with a cold outbreak in January, which what else is new? We are always dealing with a cold outbreak in January, it seems like, as we're going to be dealing with an easterly QBO, which weakens down the polar vortex. We already discussed that. Below freezing temps could be felt as far south as Florida, and we could be dealing with the snowiest Midwest since 2013 and 14 because of that lake effect snow. We did deal with a lot of lake effect snow that year. I do remember shoveling a lot of snow that year, and I was sitting in Mom's Tahoe to go to school while Ma was scraping the windows. The reason I took us off and Ma was not happy, but it was a cold winter to say the least. And now some winter hazards we could be coming in on this winter is some blizzards up north because of the weak La Nina occurring. Atmospheric rivers could be more prominent out west, deal with some floods and mudslides. Ice storms, I did discuss this earlier. Freezing rain threats down here in the south central part of the country. Thunder snow, which is accompanied by heavy snowfall. Nor'easters could be possible with the polar vortex coming down here in the eastern part of the country. And during weak La Ninas, we do have severe weather we got to worry about during the wintertime. It's not as prominent, but we can come in on that during the wintertime. Think back to 2023. We did have that big tornado in Mayfield. It was an EF3, I think it was. So please keep that in mind, as severe weather can occur during the winter months. So now that I covered that, we're basically going to be dealing with a wet and snowy winter up north and a warm and dry winter down south. Let's go ahead and get into how you can prepare for this upcoming winter. Now, keeping it simple here, you can seal drafts and stock supplies for your home. Keep the emergency kit handy, check the battery and the tires. Layer up, watch for frostbite. Keep extra food and water for the pets, of course. Bring them inside. Up north, you have blizzard kits, and down south you have freeze protection to protect those pipes. Before I go into more detail on the winter prep, I will be issuing bread and milk alerts for this upcoming winter for these upcoming snowstorms. Here are the risk levels. We have warning, which is the highest risk, obviously, which means that a storm's coming, full prep mode, stay safe indoors. A watch means that it's a medium risk, storms possible, stock up on essentials, monitor forecasts, and of course, the advisory is the lowest risk of all, minor threat, grab basics if convenient. We can see down here, warning is high frenzy, and watch is medium panic level. Advisory is a low panic level, which is inspired by pre-storm rushes. Sort of a funny thing I do. But here is a little graphic I create during the bread and milk warning watches and advisories. It's what I issued during that winter storm we had over the Ohio Valley last year. I have been experimenting on AI to create a better one, so please bear with me with this, as it's not going to be perfect. You can see the bread and milk is over here outside of the colored zones, so please just keep this in mind. I may just go back to this in general. Now, other than grabbing the bread and milk, here's how you can prepare for the winter time. Make sure you have warm blankets and gloves, flashlights, extra batteries, ice scraper, jumper cables, winter boots, non-perishable food and water, first aid kits, of course, hand warmers, multi-tool and pocket knife, road flares, waterproof matches, spare chains and cash, hence Squidward, and battery-powered or even a cranked radio to keep you entertained and keep you safe during these winter storms. And here is a winter storm planning timeline to keep y'all safe during these winter months. A few days out, if the forecast calls for winter weather, start preparing now. Have emergency supplies for your home and car. Check your smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors as well. Replenish fuel for your car and heating sources like kerosene heaters. Those are always handy. The day before, forecast accuracy continues to improve, so keep checking the latest forecast. Adjust plans, have multiple ways to receive warnings, and bring pets indoors and ensure they have fresh water. And during and after the storm, remain vigilant and stay informed. Drive only if necessary. Check on neighbors and family. Properly ventilate emergency heat sources. If you run a kerosene heater, very important. Keep generators at least 20 feet from your home. Of course, you'll get one of those Jackery things. Those things are very handy. You can keep those inside your home. Don't even have to worry about all the gases and all that nonsense. And of course, take it easy when shoveling. Don't overexert yourself. Can be easy to do that. Now, winter weather prep checklist. Before winter hits, make sure you insulate pipes located in attics, crawl spaces, basements, near outer walls and inside, as they are susceptible to freezing, especially in the south. Drain and remove outdoor hoses, cover outdoor faucets, trim branches away from home to prevent damage. Check your water heater for wet spots on the floor or a rusted tank. Know where your shutoffs are located: electricity, gas, and water. And here are some other winter prep tips for if you are traveling. Take a screenshot of this if you want to, but basically just keep what you need inside your car in case you get stuck this upcoming winter. And this winter, make sure you dress up for the winter. Obviously, use your common sense. If you think you have hypothermia, basically you are confused, you're shivering, difficulty speaking, sleepiness, or have stiff muscles. So these are the signs of hypothermia. And here is how you can dress for the cold. If you want me to tell you how to dress for the cold, here is some ways to dress. Basically, extreme cold, you have multiple layers, preferably 3+ layers. So stay warm, y'all. And this winter, if we get any sort of winter storms, I'll be out there filming it in the backyard, just like I did last year, freezing my tuchus off for y'all, so stay tuned for that. As last year, we did get in on a lot of snowfall. We got in right around a foot of snowfall last year, which was actually very exciting. I actually just only want one snowfall. One snowfall does it. And after that, I think I'm done with snow, because last year, this snowfall did me in. So look forward to that this year, and also get the drone up as well. The drone will be nice and handy if I don't forget to charge it up. Sometimes I do forget to charge it up and don't get it in the air, so again, stay tuned for that. And a couple things before we go. We always didn't have meteorology or weather models to tell us how the weather's going to be, so we always relied on folklore to predict the winter weather. And back then, we used willy worms and persimmon seeds and also onion skins. Now, I'm not too familiar with this one. I'll have to look more into it, but basically I'm thinking that the thicker the onion skin, the worse the winter, basically. And of course, willy worms. If you have a willy worm that looks like this, you're not going to have a bad winter. But if you have a willy worm that looks like this, you're going to have a bad winter. It's a black willy worm. You never want to see those if you don't want a bad winter. Took this picture, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the persimmon seeds forecast, this one I did a couple weeks ago as well. We got more knives than spoons in our persimmons this go around. So it means a very frigid, windy, and snowy winter this year, according to the persimmon seeds, as we did get in on some spoons, but a little bit more knives than spoons in this go around. And before I let y'all go, here's an interesting stat about wintertime. Did you know that 22 million tons of road salt is used every year, which is enough for over 200,000 Olympic-sized pools. So that's an interesting stat y'all most likely never knew. So hopefully y'all got a lot out of this. If you did, please make sure you hit that like and share button so more folks are informed about the weather. Also, leave me some feedback in the comment section down below, as any feedback helps provide you, the viewer, better and more informative content in the future. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, as I hear ones whether we try to make weather forecasting fun and informative. So basically, it's going to be wet and cool up in the northern half of the country, with a potential polar vortex and nor'easters coming through the eastern part of the country, and dry and warm winter down south, which could mean some ice storms and drought risks down there. So stay safe this winter, stay warm, use your common sense. No, common sense ain't too common nowadays, but please use it this winter. And I'll be out there covering any winter storm we get here in the Williams Weather headquarters. So again, stay warm, stay safe. If you love wintertime, then enjoy it. Appreciate all y'all for watching, and until next time, never stop forecasting.